If you're an HR professional who works hard to fill roles within your company, keep employees engaged, and build company culture, welcome to America Back to Work, where dreams only work if we do. We'll share wide-ranging issues surrounding pre-employment background screening, HR topics such as recruiting, hiring, labor trends, and company culture, as well as broader HR-influenced business topics such as customer experience, service level excellence, and protecting what matters through best practices in prevention, protection, and corporate security. America Back to Work is brought to you by S2 Verify. Here's your host, Arnette Heintze.
Welcome to America Back to Work, brought to you by S2 Verify, where our purpose is to help you hire with confidence and manage insider risk. I'm your host, Arnette Heintze. Thank you for joining. Today, our guest is Lyndsay Bliss. Lyndsay is a career HR professional with well over 15 years of experience in working with global and domestic markets. Lyndsay is currently the Vice President of Human Resources at Carus, a manufacturing organization that is working to save our planet with clean and safe chemical products. Before that, Lyndsay served as Vice President of Human Resources for a billion-dollar business spanning 17 countries. And before that, Lyndsay spent 13 years in various HR roles from the ground up. Lyndsay is an expert in managing workforce talent and developing organizational solutions that align people strategies to business initiatives. Lyndsay, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
And, I know over your career, you've worked your way up from a HR generalist to a global HR leader. What advice do you have for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps in this exciting career of HR?
Yeah, when I read the question the first time, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, my career has kind of been all over the map. And, if I had to really think about what helped me get to where I am today, I really think it's all the supportive leaders that I've worked with before, the mentors, the advocates, the colleagues that I've worked with that have really encouraged me along the way. And I think, the other side of that is, I worked for a large global company where, you kind of just, you were the body that kind of got moved in to work on the project. And a lot of times I wasn't always 100% ready for the tasks and the projects and the solutions and whatever I was working towards. But I had people that really believed in me and supported me and put me in those positions because they knew that I could make it, I could do it. And, I really rely on the fact that I had a lot of those great leaders in my career that have helped me kind of get to where I am today. And as I was thinking and preparing for our conversation, one of the things I remembered is last year I did a Celebrating Women in Leadership event. And my parting words to the group was, when they asked, how did you get to where you are today, Lyndsay? My comment was really kind of slow down. I say a lot of times, slow down to speed up. And I think sometimes people just want to rush to get things done. And part of how you really kind of get to where you're going is really slow down, take chances, learn from your mistakes, build a community around you of mentors and trusted advisors who can really help guide your career journey. That was imperative for me. People I'm still friends with today that I call and ask, advice from are people that have been in my past. And then the other thing is really kind of creating your own path and following your heart. I think that's kind of how I got to where I am today. I was, obviously working at a larger organization, and I came to Carus, and I came to Carus because one of the things I wanted to do was slow down, and really be a part of the solution, to be part of the team where you could actually make an impact. And I think I can actually do that here at Carus. And so follow your gut, follow your heart, and, make sure you've got a good team around you that's supporting you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I know over the course of your career, you've gained some deep experience across the spectrum of issues that confront HR leaders. And specifically, I know that you've had some time with labor relations and specifically negotiations. Any advice you have out there for HR leaders in this space that can help?
Yeah, so for me, and this is kind of one of the crazy things about my career, but I kind of just fell into labor relations. At the time when I had to negotiate my first contract, at my last employer, we had one person and they were responsible for all the labor across the U.S. And at that time, my company had kind of spun off and was spinning off a new business. and this individual went with that new business. So the resource that you essentially had relied on to negotiate contracts for you was gone. And so it was me and a plant manager, and we very quickly had to figure out, okay, how do we do this? Because we have a contract that's up, and this is a critical raw material that we need to make. And we really had to think hard about how do we accomplish that goal when we didn't have the subject matter expertise in-house to help us. And so, it was, again, kind of thrown in the deep end and see how we did. And I think for that situation, again, it was about the people that I surrounded myself with. We did a lot of planning. We did a lot of really kind of analyzing those win-win situations and solutions. 9 times out of 10, when you're talking about labor, it's really around listening and listening to understand what the other side is saying. And I feel like, both the plant manager and myself in that situation, in that scenario, the first CBA I negotiated, we just really wanted to listen to hear what the team was saying and try to kind of come up with win-win solutions. And we did. I mean, we had blocked out, I think, 2 weeks for actual negotiations, and we finished in 4 days. We finished with a contract that I think both we were proud of from a company perspective and the union was proud of. They felt like for the first time in a long time, the company actually wanted to hear what they had to say and really listen and try to work with them. And so that would be the other piece of advice is, obviously the listening, but also, really trying to figure out what is driving some of the requests that the other side is asking for, and figuring out where you have an opportunity to give a little to get a little.
Yeah, those are some great practical steps there. And another aspect that I think is from your experience, managing global teams and needing to negotiate with various labor teams, it requires a certain leadership style, I would imagine. Can you share anything about your leadership style in this area?
Yeah, I thought about that, when I was putting together my thoughts for our conversation today. And I think one of the most foundational aspects of my style is really around trusting my team and building a group around me that, really you believe in. And, a lot of times I'm in situations where, I don't micromanage. I tell people, I'm not a micromanager, but I expect if you have a question or concern, you come to me and you talk about it and we have a dialogue. And by trusting them to do their jobs and letting them kind of do their thing, I think that's created a real appreciation for the other side, appreciation for me and my job as the leader. I think that's also true on an international stage as well. I've dealt with teams in China and Brazil and India and all over Europe. And it comes back to that foundational practice, which is really trust your people, build a cadence of, kind of one-on-ones with them where you have an opportunity to check in with them. I was in the field a lot in my past life. I traveled a lot because I thought the best way to really build relationship with my team as well as the employees on the ground was going and having conversations and sitting down and having dinner with people and really breaking bread and building that relationship both from a work perspective, but also on the personal side as well.
Yeah. So with that experience, tell us about your philosophy, of hiring, developing, retaining talent around the world with all of the different cultures and labor groups. I think that's a challenge.
It absolutely can be. I think understanding cultural differences is probably one of the biggest things that you need to do in that position. What works in the style you take in China might not necessarily be the style you take in Europe. And in Europe, it's really depending on the country or in the style you take. And so, again, I think it's really just listening and trying to work with your team to figure out what makes them tick. And obviously hiring people for the skills and capabilities that they do bring to the table and allowing them the bandwidth and the opportunity to truly be seen as that leader and to kind of lead from an HR perspective was really, really important when I was on those global groups and responsible for those global teams. I also recognized that I wasn't the subject matter expert and I needed to rely on my team to kind of help drive a lot of the work we were doing. And I think that's the other piece of it is trust your people. It all comes back to that basic foundational skill of, building those trusting relationships and letting your people do their jobs.
Yeah. I heard you talk about at the beginning how, the opportunity you have now was the chance to maybe get more focused, maybe not with bringing all the headaches of a global things that can bring. And I can imagine that's 24 hours a day. But in your current role, you're managing a workforce that I understand is maybe more local to Illinois. And there's got to be some similarities, but there's also some large differences, right? With, having a leaner team. What's the pros and cons you want to share with us about that change?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things I took for granted when I first came here was I came from a large organization where, quite frankly, I had a lot of resources and a lot of centers of excellence that I could kind of pull from, whether that was comp or talent management or talent development, recruiting. And coming here to a smaller organization, you don't necessarily have those expertise in-house. So I had to very quickly figure out, how do I get what I need when I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to grow a 15% large HR organization?
Yeah.
So I really kind of went back to my roots and really thought about, okay, well, if I don't have the expertise, how do I provide my team that I do have today that are really strong generalists the opportunity to learn and grow and develop? And by having some of those conversations with them to try to figure out what their career expectations were, as well as understand where do they want to go? Where do you want to go when you grow up? Where do you want to be? Having those kind of conversations with my team really helped me decide and design a path forward that allowed me to give them the opportunity to expand in some of these areas. Compensation is a perfect example. I didn't have a comp expert. I know enough to be extremely dangerous with compensation. I think I'm good, but not an expert by any stretch. And I needed to figure out how to kind of fix the comp program. And so I had someone on my team who had been in HR for a long time, who had never really had an opportunity to work in comp. And we partnered with a best-in-class organization that has a focus in compensation. She partnered directly with that group to put a program in place and kind of do the analysis alongside the comp experts on what we needed to focus on and what we needed to change. She got certified in doing job evaluation, and so it was really trying to figure out what she was looking for and how could I provide her an opportunity to grow, but also in the same aspect help my business and help the team bench strength as well. And so that's probably the best example I could give you, where in my past life I would have gone to comp and had them do it. I didn't have that in this scenario, and so I had to really grow that skill and expertise on my team.
Yeah. Any other key learnings you can share in that space? I mean, that's a really valuable concept around the compensation topic. So for other HR leaders that find themselves as a leader of one, that need some assistance in this space, any other concepts or ideas you have in this?
Networking. I mentioned really early on that I have a core group of folks that helped me kind of get to where I was very early in my career. And they're all CHROs at large organizations today. And I've kept kind of the lines of conversation open between us. And so when I first came to Carus and really kind of evaluated what the HR needs were, I reached out to some of my peers, the people I really truly trusted, and asked them for some advice.
So I'm moving to an area that I think you might have some good insight as well, which is, first of all, I was delighted to discover that Carus is a client with S2 Verify. And that was just happened to be just a good luck on my side that you're in that role. But,
Sure.
Our goal is, obviously, our purpose is to help teams manage the risk of a bad hire and to help protect the organization. So I'm wondering if you've got any thoughts in this area around what are some of the best ideas that you've experienced in leveraging background screening solutions?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you probably a vanilla response to that because I'm very conservative. And I think it's really important that once you kind of have an identified base of what it is you're screening for in terms of your backgrounds, you stick to that, right? Because you don't want to be put in a position where you're looking for something different for one role and you're not looking for it in another. So I think once you've kind of established what your set screening tools are, you stay on that track. I think the other thing that I always tell my team is look for experience when you're talking to people. And sometimes, having an open mind can lead to, different and creative solutions. So that's kind of probably how I would describe that.
Yep.
My
And
feelings on that.
what's your thoughts about background checks and the annual process of checking? Have you got any thoughts in that space?
Yeah, we do that today from a DOT perspective. Obviously, we have drivers today, then we have to go through that annualized screening process for the MRBs and stuff. And I think for a lot of those regulated, industries, that it's the right thing to do because you just need to make sure you're keeping everybody safe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that, there's a lot of organizations that have various compliance requirements and in various industries, whether it's the gaming industry or whether it's the trucking or manufacturing, if you're manufacturing certain goods and products. So what about potential issues for in the HR roles itself? Any screening flags that you pay attention to that, as you're screening HR professionals?
Yeah, I think for me, I just really want to understand, more about what people's whys are when they're looking to make a change. What was the motivational fit that kind of pushed them to look at another opportunity or to kind of go after another role? I don't so much I think a lot of people look at gaps, right, on a resume. That doesn't really bother me. I'm more focused on the skills and expertise and the demonstrated knowledge, and giving people an opportunity to, kind of tell you their why and tell you why they want to come work for you. Those are really the things that keep me focused and honest when I'm looking at candidates.
Yeah. Given your experience, it also is not lost to me that you're used to working with various generations. So you probably generations from baby boomers all the way up to our current generation now. So what's your observations or thoughts on juggling various generations? Are you able to find common ground with all of them?
So it's funny you should mention that because one of the things that, we did when I first came here to Carus was really focus on our culture and our culture across the organization. And one of the things I found very quickly was that groups stayed with their groups. Regardless of backgrounds or, what generation you were, people kind of stuck together. And one of the things we did was pulled people closer together, moved everybody on one floor, and really kind of brought forward this idea of a fun committee. And the fun committee is focused on bringing people together and really breaking down a lot of the barriers that you do see, whether it's a generational difference or a background difference or, quite frankly, even I'm in finance and I'm in HR. And we really wanted to break down all those barriers and really act as one team. And so we've done a lot of fun things where we've pushed people together. We do grab and go breakfast. We had a trunk or treat in our parking lot. We celebrate different holidays and picnics. And, part of it is regardless of where you sit or what generation you are, pulling our team together because we win as a team and we lose as a team. And it's really important for the leadership team that I sit on today that we all kind of band together and work together and kind of create that one team environment.
Oh, that's fabulous. So, we're coming to our time here, but before I sign off, I have one question for you that I like to ask.
Sure.
Yes. So if we were to conduct an S2 verified background check on you today, any surprising discoveries?
Well, if you're my husband, I did get a speeding ticket that I didn't necessarily share with him. So I think that would probably, pop up somewhere. But
Oh, well, that's
that would be my biggest one.
and I promise you, there are many of us around that have experienced that bad experience. So, look, I think some of the insights you provided today, I think are really valuable for our audience. And if they wanted to connect with you on social media or LinkedIn, where might they find you, and how might they follow you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and if you want to follow me, I'd be honored to kind of have you follow me. So LinkedIn.
Well, great. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge
Yeah,
and insights with us and your HR colleagues out there. I'm looking forward to seeing what moves you make in the future, and maybe find another opportunity to engage you in a conversation. So,
I would love that.
yep. And for our audience, please tune in next week for an interview with Catherine Morgan. She's a career coach and author of the new book, This Isn't Working: Evolving the Way We Work to Decrease Stress, Anxiety, and Depression. We'll talk about the effects of the new normal is having on employees and how to make it work for everyone. And it goes without saying, let's get America back to work, because dreams only work if we do.
If you want to stay abreast of HR, recruiting, and hiring trends, tips, and tools, make sure you subscribe to America Back to Work. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a rating and a review.